Jesus. There's power in the name of
17 years old. 17 years old, but this is a promise from God. Joseph, maybe when he had a dream, he did not know how long he had to wait. He did not know what he had to go through. He did not know the road that would lay ahead of him. But God knew. And God was aware that timing was important. So then the next aspect of God's plan is purpose. Purpose. Purpose is the reason behind something that is being done. God did not do things as a matter of fact, just to do things. No, he has a purpose. When he made a promise to you, maybe a promise to heal you, a promise to give you a job, a promise to rescue out of a dilemma, a promise to bless you with whatever. There's a reason. The problem that we have many times is that we don't anticipate God's reason for doing something. It's all about us. When God gave me a promise, it was about me. So when he said that, when he put in place the opportunity for me to leave the job early, to retire early with that financial incentive, my mind could have been, oh wow, this is about me. I can do anything I want right now. I can go wherever I want. I can act whatever I want. But because I understood that there was a purpose. Yes. Why would God let me off of the secular job? Because there was a purpose that he had in mind. Something that he was planning. Something that he was putting in place. Something that he was bringing order and structure to. Something that he needed to have me to further commit myself to, where I would not be distracted by the secular job that I needed. I had to think about God's purpose. And when God bless you, he can bless you with a car. God, what do you want me to use the car for? Amen. Bless you with a promotion. Lord, why are you promoting me? Bless you with some kind of idea or business or enterprise or entrepreneurial opportunity. Why, Lord? What is your purpose in doing it? We have to understand that. And there's a purpose of God healing you, a purpose of God delivering you, a purpose of God bringing you into a family. Why are you bringing me and allowing me to get married or have children? What's the purpose, Lord? Purpose. Why the person is doing something he is doing. Now, what is his reasoning behind doing a particular thing? What he plans to achieve from it. What does God plan to achieve from my being retired? He had a purpose. And he has a purpose for you. Then that's what objective. God's objective in planning. His objective. Objective means it refers to set tasks to reach or achieve goals to be accomplished. So it is objective, more concrete, and are clearly defined by certain steps that will eventually allow the person to fulfill that particular goal. It has to be objective. I was preparing mentally for retirement. I was preparing for the plan that God had for me. I was preparing for the purpose that God, there was an objective. And the objective have tasks that have to be attached to them so that the goal could be met. And then there's impact. Impact is to have a strong effect on someone or something. So when God gives you a promise, it's designed to make an impact. It may be making an impact on people that you don't even know are watching you. People may have seen you struggling, seen going through a crisis, going through trouble, going through pain and agony. They may have seen you, but God said, I'm bringing you out of this. And people that may have been watching you, that may have been observing you from a distance, and they see the transformation that God promised bringing to your life, and you make an impact even if you don't even realize it. God's plan is designed to allow you to make an impact. To make an impact on your co-workers. Make an impact on your family. Make an impact in your community. Make an impact on somebody else. God's plan is coming with an objective to structure and to create a situation where we're able to make an impact. The Bible says like this here, you are the light of the world. A city that sitteth upon a hill which could not be hid. Let your light so shine so that men may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. He wants you to become a person that makes an impact. And so he gives you promises that come attached with plans that's based on principles. Then finally there's implementation. Implementation is the process of making something active or effective. It refers to the carrying out of a plan. So God, when he gives us a promise, he implements a plan. That's the thing about it, is that he don't consult us about the plan. He don't ask you, well, what should I do to make sure that my promise is fulfilled in your life? What road should I take? What should I include in the process? No, God said, here's the promise. Now, what I want you to do is to understand, I got a plan that must be implemented for you to access the promise. And we're going to look at Joseph now. I know it's been a long time, y'all. We're going to look at Joseph. And how God took a promise with timing, with purpose, with objective, made him an impact, and implemented that plan. So God knows when bad things are happening. Joseph is celebrating the promises that God gave him. That my brother, my father, they're going to bow down and work. Oh yeah, God is elevating me. God, have you ever been there where you have got a word from God, a promise from God, and you're just so excited about it? You're filled with joy, you're filled with exuberance, and you know God has heard your prayer. God has coming to rescue you. You got a promise from God that things are going to change, that the circumstances are going to be altered, and you're going to now see the glory of God. You got that promise. But part of God's plan may be some bad things. In Genesis chapter 37, verse 26. Genesis 37, verse 26. And this is after Joseph is celebrating the dreams that God gave him, the promises that God gave him. It says in verse 26, and Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hands be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver and they brought Joseph into Egypt. Talk about timing. Joseph did not know that the fulfillment of his promise would be in Egypt. Joseph's brothers did not know that the fulfillment of his promise would be in Egypt. Joseph's father did not know the fulfillment of the promise would be in Egypt. But God knew. And God had a plan to get Joseph to Egypt. And God got a plan to get you to wherever you need to be. And many times it may be unpleasant. You think Joseph wanted to go to Egypt? But look at this here. God knew Joseph was thrown in the pit. And he didn't stop it. God knew Joseph was sold to Potiphar in Egypt. And he didn't stop it. God knew Joseph was cast into Pharaoh's dungeon in Egypt. But he didn't stop it. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, here's what it says. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. When Joseph was in the pit, God was making a way for Joseph to escape. Now, obviously, we would have thought that God would put Joseph back with his father, returning back to his homeland. But God said, no, I'm sending you to Egypt. And there are times when we are expecting God's promises, and we're rejoicing about God's promises and not realizing that we're about to be thrown into a pit, so that God could work out his plan to fulfill his promise. When Joseph's circumstances were getting worse, God was planning. What do you do when God don't answer your prayers? Look at Genesis chapter 40, verse 12 through 15. Genesis chapter 40, verse 12 through 15 says, and Joseph said unto him, talking to the butler, that was Pharaoh's butlers, he said, this is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head and restore you unto your place, and you shall deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast his butler. In verse 14 he says, but think on me when it shall be well with you, and show kindness. I pray you unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this dungeon or this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. I mean, just think about this. Joseph was thrown in the pit by his brothers. He was sold unto Potiphar by the Ishmaelites. And now he's been cast in the dungeon because Potiphar's wife lied on him. And now he's in the dungeon. He's in the dungeon and he's praying he want to get out. He was 17 years old when he went to Egypt. He's in his mid-20s when he's in the dungeon. Almost 10 years, Joseph went from the pit to a servant in Potiphar's house, and then being in the dungeon of Egypt. How in the world could God's plan be working out? How in the world could God, the promise he made me, how in the world could I find myself in such a despicable situation? It don't seem like the plan that I will select for my life. And I'm pretty sure some of us are considering the bumps and bruises we've gone through, considering the controversy, or really the contrary ways of our life compared to the expected promises of God. It's not going according to our plan. And we're praying, and God don't seem to be answering. We're praying. See, what happened is, even though Joseph did not know it, but God heard Joseph pray when he was in the pit. God heard Joseph pray when he was in Potiphar's house. God heard Joseph pray when he was in Pharaoh's dungeon. It may not seem like God heard him. Joseph may not have any tangible evidence that God heard him, but God heard Joseph when he prayed. And in Romans chapter 8, verses 26 and 27, I want to encourage you. I want to inspire you. I want to implore you to don't stop praying. Don't give up on praying. No matter if you're flat on your back and everything is going wrong in your life and the things are not working out the way you thought that they would. Keep praying. In Romans chapter 8, verse 26 and 27, it says, likewise, the Spirit also helpeth our infirmities, but we know not what we should pray for as we ought. But the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. And he that searcheth the heart knoweth what is the mind of the Spirit, because he maketh intercession for the saints according to the will of God. Don't stop praying. The Spirit is involved in everything going on in your life. Don't stop praying when tears are rolling down your eyes. Don't stop praying when your heart is breaking. Don't stop praying when you're busted and disgusted. Don't stop praying. See, when Joseph was praying, God was planning. Understand that? Oh my God. When you're praying, God is still planning. When you are calling out to God, he's planning. When God is looking at you and you've been bowing before him and saying, Lord, my life is in your hand. My trust, my confidence in your hand. When you are praying, God is planning. Then what is happening when you think God has forgotten about you? You don't see no evidence that God heard your prayers. You feel nothing in the air. It seems like you're dead and dormant and it's all over. But what is happening when you think God has forgotten you? I imagine Joseph may have had moments like that. Understand, Joseph was a man that had integrity. Joseph was a man that had an excellent spirit. Joseph was a man that could be trusted. But Joseph was a man. And there was time he was in that pit. And he may have wondered, well, why me? There were times that he was in Potiphar's house, a slave. Why me, Lord? You've forgotten about me. Times there in that past, at the end of 2 full years. Did you see that? He told the butler that Pharaoh was going to restore him back to his position. And when you get there, please tell Pharaoh about me. I'm innocent. I did not do what Potiphar's wife said I did. I should not be here. Matter of fact, I'm a Hebrew. I was sold into slavery. I'm a free man in my hometown. My father is a man of prominence and wealth. Pharaoh, get me out of here. Tell him. And understand, Joseph had ministered to this butler. Joseph had treated his brother nicely and kindly. Joseph had did all he can to make the butler feel that he would support him in his while he was down there in the dungeon. And when the butler gets restored to his position, he forgets about Joseph. Isn't that interesting? The person that you helped out the most, what do you say when they forget you? Someone that you rescued out of a dilemma, and now that you're facing a dilemma, and they forget who you are. Someone that you thought that you could count on. Someone that you could say, you know something, don't you remember when I did you? I don't remember that. But then sometimes God will allow people to forget. Because timing. And also, it is part of the plan. Are you trusting in God? Or are you trusting in people? Part of the plan. Genesis chapter 41, verse 1 says, and it came to pass in the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. In verse 8 and 9 it says, and it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember. Whoa! After 2 years, all of a sudden now God sparked the memory of the butler. God's planning and God's timing. Joseph was 17 years old when he is taken and put in the pit by his brothers. He's in his late 20s now when he's called by Pharaoh out of the dungeon. Verse 12 of Genesis 41, it says this, and there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh. Genesis 41, verse 37 and 30 to 41, it says, and the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God has showed you all this, there is none so discreet and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and according unto your word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. God's promises and God's planning. God took a 17-year-old boy out of Palestine and put him to be second in command of Egypt, the greatest nation in the world at that time. For being a slave, being a prisoner, a convict, to being second in command in Egypt. What God was doing when Joseph thought God had forgotten him, of the plan for Joseph. God made Potiphar's house part of the plan for Joseph. God made Pharaoh's dungeon part of the plan for Joseph. In Romans chapter 8, verse 28, when you're looking at your situation, say, I don't see how God has made this part of the plan. In verse 28 of Romans chapter 8, it says this, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are the called according to his purpose. God will incorporate every negative circumstance, every situation, every problem into the cake mix of Joseph's life so that he could bring about the promises. When Joseph thought God had forgotten him, God included everything as part of the plan. And you may be looking at your life and looking at your circumstance right now and say, I don't see it, Pastor. I understand, I'm reading about Joseph and I hear the story of Joseph and I can realize that sounds good, but Joseph's not in my shoes. Joseph don't live in my address. Joseph don't have my problem. But understand this here, for we know that all things
yes,
all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and those who are the called according to his purpose. There's a song that we should all be familiar with. It says, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, that is who you are. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel that you're working, you never stop working. God promises and God's plan, he's always working. Never stop working. Oh, I believe that God's working. God is planning, and everything you're going through is part of God's plan. God bless you. Oh my God. Yes, thank you, Lord, in the name of Jesus. I bless you, Lord. I praise you. We're praying right now. And I believe some of y'all are going through something that's very trying, very challenging. Your faith is being tested. The screws are being put to you. You're going through some hardships and pain. But while you're praying, God is planning.
Amen.
While you're believing and holding on, God is planning. While you're suffering and struggling, God is planning. He never stops working. Father, I pray right now